Hi, I'm Susan. Welcome to Tea and Games. I have kind of fallen behind, or it at least feels like I've fallen behind, in making videos because I'm doing a top 50 list, which I haven't done before. I've done 3 episodes of the, hold up, 4 fingers, I've done 3 episodes of the top 50, and I'm going to do at least one more next week, which would be this week because I'm recording this ahead of time. And I got into trouble last week recording things way ahead of time because I panicked some of y'all because I had evacuation. The game, I meant the game in the title, and there are people evacuating for real or were evacuating for real at the time the video came out. So, sorry about that. We are fine. We were not in the path of that hurricane, so we did not have to evacuate. The only evacuation we experienced was the board game. Speaking of which, first, hi to new subscribers. We've got a bunch of them. I don't know where you're all coming from, but I'm glad you're here. And hello to my regular viewers. I'm glad you're here too. We had a fun weekend last weekend. I mean, we've been kind of leaning into some heavier board games, and we've been enjoying them, which surprised us because we tend to like mid to lighter games. But I guess it was because we've been playing a little bit heavier games that, or actually in some cases a lot heavier games, that last weekend it was time. I mean, at a certain point our brains just said, yes, let's do something much lighter. But before we did that, and I know some of you have been waiting to hear this, we played one more game of Zapotec. I think I'm going to retire this for a little bit of time, shelve it for a little while, but we did the thing where the strategy that I had figured out, both of us played with that strategy, and we got the highest scores, both of us, that we've ever gotten in this game. So I think now we really, really, really have cracked it, which I've said before, and then we tanked. But this game is just kind of strangely addictive to us, and I cannot even explain why. It's a light Euro, I guess you would say. It has a lot of that Euro-y goodness, but it's not going to take you like hours to do, at least not for a 2-player game. It goes by way too fast, which was part of the problem. It was like Robert and I were trying to figure out how we could do all the things in the limited number of rounds and stuff that we have, and I think we figured it out. So we got in one game of Zapotec, and then we started playing some light stuff. Of course, very high on the list was the crowdfunding that delivered the week before, which would be actually, since this is recorded ahead, like the week before. Canopy Evergreen. This is the 1 to 4 player reworking of Weird City Games, Tim Eisner's 2-player game, Canopy, which is one of Robert and I's favorite games. Robert is my husband. We are just casual weekend board gamers, and I do this kind of casual little video thing. I'm not a professional board gamer, do not aspire to be professional content creator or anything, but when I saw that they were coming out with a version of Canopy that was going to be playable by more than just us, I had to back that. Now, I did back the retail version. I mean, the 2-player version of Canopy I have is also retail. So this is what retail looks like. Retail looks pretty darn good. So yeah, we got in Canopy. I would say it's probably just fractionally heavier than the 2-player version because it has, as you can see here, a player board and you put little tokens on that player board that represents resources. It's the same kind of things that you have on the cards. This is set in the Pacific Northwest. The original was in the Amazon. And you have 3D trees, which are, instead of laying out like tree trunk cards, you're doing like little tiny 3D trees that you put on here. And when you complete tall trees, and you get the tokens between the two trees, which can increase what you get from your cards, because you are still laying out a card tableau in front of you, creating a little ecosystem. They made some changes in this, and I spent a lot of time kind of thinking about these changes. I think the changes are overall really pretty good. And now, placing 3D trees on a board and collecting the tokens between the trees, that's new. That's totally new. But the other bits of the gameplay are very much like the two-player game. So, in the two-player game, you have a whopping huge deck of cards that you divide into 3 seasons, plus you have a seedlings deck. In this game, they've kind of consolidated all of that. And because what you would do is you would just play each season one after another. And the problem with that, and we ran into this a few times, is that sometimes the card distribution is really wonky. It's not unusual to have a lot of cards that are kind of clumped in one season and then they're very thin on the ground in the other seasons. But this version of the game takes care of that, because you got one deck of your ecosystem, and the seedling cards come out of that deck, which kind of makes sense, because the seedling cards in the original game, they had the same things on them that were in the main deck of cards. They just were marked as seedling cards. So you deal out a certain number of cards based upon player count, and those become seedling cards. You place like a pinecone marker on top of them, so that if you draw a seedling card, you can draw from that deck at the end of the season. And at the end of the season, you will still discard the plants. But at the end of the season, you have gone through the whole deck, and then the whole deck is shuffled. So you will have access to all of those cards for the second and the third season. There's only 3 seasons in this game. So what about wildlife? Because wildlife carries over. And in this game, wildlife does carry over from season to season. But the wildlife cards don't go into that main deck. They have their own separate deck, and you buy them with food, which there's a little food resource tracker that goes along one edge of the board. The other edge of the board measures points. But that food resource tracker is really kind of nifty, because you have cards that will give you food, and then you can then spend that food to get wildlife, which will get you other stuff. And there are some wildlife icons which represent kind of the food chain circle of life thing there. And if you can get all of those icons, you get more points for it at the end. So there are some very nifty extra mechanisms in this game, and we enjoyed it a lot. There were moments where, because we were so familiar with the original game, where we're going like, wait, what? And this does, what do I do with this? You know, it's like, so should I pick that up or put it down, or, you know, because there were just moments where we were just like grabbing the rule book and looking, because there were things that were done differently than the original game, or things that weren't in the original game. But if you know the original game, you're not going to have any trouble picking this up. This is I would say a lightweight game, not super light, but toward the medium end of light. And we really like this. We really did. And I think that this is not going to replace our 2-player Canopy, because it's a different ecosystem with different cards, and we really like it a lot. I mean, it's well entrenched in that games we really like thing. But I think that this is a good addition to what has now become our Canopy collection. So we are very, very pleased with this. But yeah, that whole push your luck mechanism where you look at the decks and decide if you want to take that deck or go for the next deck, it's all still there. The game plays beautifully. Everything you loved about the first game is there, but the gameplay is actually neater and smoother even than the original game. And that's kind of a good trick because the original game was just so darn good. And so, yeah, we played Canopy Evergreen. But before Canopy Evergreen, we had gone to our friendly local game store, browse around, hadn't been there in a little while, and I know I said I wasn't going to get any more new games before Christmas, and we all see how well that has done. But I had left a game I had culled at the game store for them to sell, and then you have a choice of either getting store credit or getting cash, and I went for store credit because I want to support my friendly local game store, pour the money back in there. So that was spent on Capybaras, which has been on my wish list ever since I knew it, because, I mean, who doesn't want a game about giant rodents serving you coffee in a cozy cafe? This is another kids' table board game. They make really good, fun, family weight games, and we had a good time playing this. We played 2 games of this before we wandered off into the Pacific Northwest with Canopy Evergreen. But we played 2 games of this. In the first game, I just filled out my cafe with tons of stuff, and Robert and I did too. And getting regulars, fulfilling those orders is what triggers game in. So we were going along and we were kind of doing that, but we were really concentrating on just like building out this cafe and everything. And then, we got the regulars and the game ended and everything. And so Robert's looking at it, and I had won that one, and it's like, because I was the one that ended the game. So in the second game, he decided, right, I need to slot those regulars in as quickly as humanly possible in the game and win it. And he very nearly did. I mean, he just started snapping out those regulars while I was still trying to build my cafe, and I'm going like, and I don't have any of that. So I cannot fulfill that order. So I'm looking at this and I'm going like, but these cards, if I play those cards down, they will multiply their scoring. So I really wanted to do that. And those cards over there, they will have good synergy if I can just get them from my hand into the cafe. And Robert is just slotting in those regulars over there. And I'm going like, yeah, this game is about to end. Even though I feel I'm not ready. I haven't done all this stuff I had planned to do when I started seeing the cards and everything. So I thought, okay, right, yes, and that's game. So I wasn't the one to trigger game in, but I did win by 2 points, just 2 points. And it was that last thing that I squeezed in a little bit extra tea. It was the teas that saved me. Which reminds me, the tea today is Yorkshire Gold. Yum. But yes, it was the teas that saved me rather than the coffees in the cafe. You can have different types of teas and lay them down, and they have synergy where you're getting points off of the cards with different stuff, and by leaning very hard into the teas, I managed just barely to eke out a victory, even though my cafe was shockingly bare, particularly compared to the first game. This was a lot of fun. It's got very cozy artwork with the cafes and all. You have teas and you have cookies and sandwiches and you even have lemonade. That's right, limonada. And different types of coffees, and you have decor which you can score off of, and you have performers and objectives, and this is just a nice light card game. Very cozy, very casual, not at all cutthroat. It just kind of seemed that way. But yeah, we enjoyed this a lot. I think this will be hitting the table a lot in the days to come, the weekends to come. It plays fast enough. We may be able to get in a game of this some evening. We also played a game of Tussie Mussie because we hadn't played this in a while. This is the complete collection of Tussie Mussie at Tussie Mussie by Button Shy Games, and all of the expansions, which are, I think, 3 regular, 2 solo. Anyway, it's all of them. And we enjoyed this a lot. And it's just been laying around the dining room table, and it was time for it to get played again. And speaking of card games, I did a thing. And I can't fit all the things that I had in one of my cases anymore because yesterday I got Doom sleeves for Doomlings. We played Doomlings this weekend too. It is rapidly becoming kind of our go-to, like, just light, fun card game. And so these sleeves will have, see, facing on this side and then that on the other side. The insides are shiny. And the Doom sleeve packets that you can get for Doomlings, they have that back for the trait cards, but then there's actually 3 types of sleeves. Then you also have, see, trait card back, trait cards. But you also have this back of sleeves, which are for the ages cards, both the regular ages and the catastrophes. Those are catastrophes there that I just showed you. So, and then they also have, in the same packet, because they divide all these things up, some clear sleeves. This is the card you begin with, the Birth of Life, in which you can see both the front and the back of the card, because you will need that for your gene pool cards, because your gene pool starts off at 5 and it can go down or up. And the player aids as well. So yeah, I sleeve the Doomling cards because we're just playing it so much. And some of you that have been watching for a very, very long time may recall that, as it turns out, Canopy was actually, I think, the first game I sleeved, or maybe I started sleeving Firefly before that, but Canopy was one of the first games I sleeved because we were playing it so very, very, very much that at a certain point I looked at that and I thought, right, these cards are not going to last the rest of our life, not as much as we're playing it. They need to be sleeved. And I think I'm probably going to have to sleeve Canopy Evergreen as well, just because there are some games that you play often enough and you think, yeah, I kind of want this game to last forever. I don't want it to get worn out. So yeah, we're now playing Doomlings enough that I needed to sleeve the cards. Like I played Canopy enough in the first time that I needed to sleeve the cards. That is what we played last weekend, which is not the weekend before this video will go out. I'm going to schedule this for Monday if I can get it all edited and everything. But yeah, we just played a whole bunch of light games and relatively quick games. Canopy was longer. It's actually, I think, probably about the same length as Zapotec, which is to say not that long. Actually, I'm really not sure how long Canopy played because we were just so absorbed in the game. I didn't even look at the time or the clock or anything like that. But anyhow, I think I have solved the technical difficulties I was having with the new camera thingy set up, and I will try to get 2 videos out this week or next week, or I really should not be making these things ahead of time because it's just confusing me. But I started doubling up and recording stuff ahead of time because I'm doing the top 50. We have 2 more to go in that. So I am really pleased that y'all are sticking around for that. And we should be wrapping that up in the next week or two. And I thank you all for watching. It's been fun, and I will see y'all next time round the table. Bye.